And welcome back for our review of Digitally Twisted Media. Wait, not our review of Digitally Twisted Media. Our review of Spider-Man No Way Home. So we watched it last night. Had some time to think about it. And this is a spoiler-filled review. So if you don't want spoilers, now's your chance to fly away. But first, before we start talking about that,
a word from our sponsors.
There was a horrible, horrible disturbance in the Force, and we all have to go back. So we all know why you're really here. You're not here for No Way Home. You are here for Bully McGuire. She thinks he's a douche. She thinks she's a douche. She likes him.
She kind of likes him.
That one's stunned.
Oh, that one
That
really
one likes him.
him.
That one too. Just can't believe how douche he is.
So good. I'd love to show you
So
something.
good. I'd love to shoot you sometimes. Peter Parker. Parker! Stop humping all my people! James Jonah Jameson. You know what? You can say whatever you want about him, but the fact that we actually watched the first movie last night after watching No Way Home, which was a very long night. I don't recommend it unless you really, really want to.
It's like 3 hours long. It's pretty long.
But seeing our boy Tobey Maguire, that was a good point in the movie. Overall, the movie was like kind of like depressing. Not depressing, very tragic story, a tragic hero that kind of went back to that instead of like the usual happy ending with like Tom Holland.
Honestly, it was also kind of slow.
It was slow. It kind of dragged out.
Yeah.
So overall, tragic story. We all know about that. Okay. A little slow. Some scenes were awkwardly dragged out that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yes.
And it just, besides, go ahead.
I felt like I was watching like some high school kids having their little high school drama. And I was
We
like,
kind of did.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't really care about this.
Right.
At some parts.
It was awkward. It was bad. I don't know if they were trying to be funny with the awkwardness, but it just wasn't work. Especially like when Peter Parker went back to his high school and they knew it was him. And they have like the principal.
Oh, yeah. That part was really bad.
I don't know who that one guy was, the janitor, and then some other dude. And then they made like a little display case, or one of them did. And then they was just like talking about it for way too long. It was awful. Honestly, I think what really drove this movie forward, and what really drove butts into seats, was the return of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. People
Definitely
made fun of Andrew Garfield for like being sad and everything, like when Gwen Stacy died and being really emotional and kind of crying. But it's like the dude has you just watched your girlfriend that you love plummet to her death and like
and you
break
couldn't
her neck.
save her.
Right.
Like, oh my god, of course you'd be crying.
And then also, like, I remember, like, I want to see what happened next. Like, if they would introduce a Mary Jane character and all of a sudden just...
And then they cut that one, which was sad.
And the MCU kind of just took off from there. And then Tom Holland came into the picture, and he was a new Spider-Man. And he always was just a really, really dorky kid. I mean, Tobey Maguire was the likable teenage dork. Tom Holland was the really, really kiddish dork.
And I mean, and it worked when they had him with the other Avengers, because it really helped to like give you that dichotomy between like Spider-Man is still a kid and the Avengers are like full-fledged adults. And it worked in that context, but like then when you had him in his own movies, I just was like it's like watching a kid who has no idea what he's doing just bumble around trying to do adult things.
Yeah, if you ever watched the Spider-Man animated series, because I did, because I have a son, kid.
We watched it a lot,
We watched it way too much. Like
we like went on quests to find
we did.
like every season of it, and
I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember.
No,
that's okay.
But they were really good, and I think that second one that Andrew Garfield portrayed Spider-Man was the best representation of that animated Spider-Man.
That's our impression. Like, they went back to Tragic Hero. There's some long, awkward moments. I really believe that it was Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming that really sold it, and that really got that nostalgic feel, like, wow, and like opened up the door to the multiverse. And they also introduced kind of like Miles Morales as well, like saying, like, when Electro got all beat up, and he was like, man, I really thought to be like a black Spider-Man. It's like out of nowhere. So they're like, okay, Miles Morales is going to be next. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know what they do with it, but who knows?
You know, speaking of, you were mentioning about, like, you know, some of the villains that were brought in. I thought one thing that was really cool was the fact that we got to see the redemption of a lot of these villains.
Yes.
That was a really great ending, a really great way of, like, tying all that up, bringing them in. I loved how all of the different Peter Parkers, although they were all so similar, they also had their own very individual personalities,
Mm-hmm.
and each of them really played their own personality so well. And so that was really cool. And being able to see all of these villains get redeemed, get cured. But who knows where that's gonna go? Like they all went back to their own universes.
William Dafoe is really old.
Really
the actor
old.
that played Doc. So here's the problem, man. Like you can only play nostalgia so far. So Tobey Maguire, he did some stunts, he did some things. Obviously, Andrew Garfield's really not that old. Like
he's not that much older. That was like 2012.
Yeah, he got chucked to the side randomly. But the actors, William Dafoe and the actor that played Dr. Octopus, they were definitely showing their age. William Dafoe just looked old. He didn't really move that much. And when he was moving around, he had his mask on. It was like big, hard, strong punches. Like really like, raw, like a brawler. Doc Ock, honestly, the whole time, he kind of was just like moving his arms
and it was
to
just
the side. And I just like, come on, guys. Really? Like,
but
you could at least do a 3D model.
I know. But like, so last night, because, Dave's son, he's only 12, so he has never seen the first Spider-Man. So we rented it last night and we watched it. That was made 20 years ago.
Feeling old, huh?
It's just crazy
20 years.
that it was made 20 years ago.
Yeah, so they brought them back, so I get it. They're old, whatever. It worked, but it only worked because they worked really hard making sure that those little tentacle things were moving around. So it was interesting, and then he got a little beat up, and then they kind of randomly showed up out of nowhere because they really, really pushed this guy, Ned. Like, he got Doctor Strange's ring, the little teleporting, and he started messing around with the whole time. So it's kind of like alluding that he might have magical powers to make him more interesting of a character in the next one. But I've also noticed there's a lot of rumors going on that he's like maybe this. Because there was a scene in there that, again, it feels like they're just trying to justify why these characters exist, other than just as a supporting cast for Tom Holland Spider-Man or Miles Morales Spider-Man, if that happens, or whatever. And now it's like, I guess there's this weird thing going on, like, hey, he might become the Hobgoblin. And it's kind of funny because when he was talking to Tobey Maguire and, no, Tobey Maguire only, he didn't really talk to Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, that it was... Tobey Maguire told him that one of his best friends died in his arms and
became a villain.
And he
killed him.
He killed him and he died in his arms. And he like walks up to Tom Holland Spider-Man. It's like, hey, I'm never gonna turn into a big evil bad villain and try to kill you, and then you'll be forced to kill me. It's like, huh?
He's like,
And so now I looked it up and it's like got this crazy rumor going on. I don't know.
Maybe
from this Ned to this Ned, that's one heck of a leap. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that one. Now, who is the real driving force in this whole entire movie? More important, Spider-Man causes way more chaos than all the villains combined. This guy. Doctor Strange knocking Peter Parker. It's like, Jenny reads Doctor Strange. Somehow you've never reviewed any of his comic books.
No.
But I was just surprising.
Well, I just didn't think that
if you guys don't know, we have a digitally twisted Outlaws comic book. Like, we do everything. We do music videos, fan videos. Jenny does tons of comic reviews. Go check it out. Digitally Twisted Media. Oh, sorry. Digitally Twisted Outlaws. It's kind of like one of those risque channels where you like talk about more adult things, show more sexy comics and all that kind of stuff.
Well, hence why I've never reviewed Doctor Strange, because he's not risque or sexy.
You know, somebody might be into that wizard stuff, and you just aren't giving them a fair chance.
Yeah.
Whatever. Outlaws. Figure it out. That's why we made it. So, this dude should know better.
He should know better, but his character.
Yes.
So, I've read lots of Doctor Strange comics, and the whole thing about Doctor Strange is every time, every arc, he does some sort of spell without realizing the cost and the balance of power that's going to result from him casting that spell. So every single time he does it, something goes wrong and chaos ensues and the universe as we know it is almost torn apart. And then he finds some way to fix it at the end. So everything going on here, totally in Doctor Strange's like MO for how he casts his spells.
Yeah. So I'm just going to listen to her because she's like, literally, she's read a lot. Like, honestly, she probably could run your own Doctor Strange.
I like Doctor Strange. He's my favorite of the Marvel Universe superheroes.
But he's really the main driving force behind all the chaos.
Of course.
It's like, yeah, Peter Parker goes to him as Peter Parker the protagonist, but I don't know. I really feel like Doctor Strange was the main driving force that actually caused all this to happen. Peter Parker was just working then to fix it.
Right, exactly.
Doctor Strange should know better. But anyways, and at the end, we'll talk about that at the very, very end. But anyways, we also, it is a, how do we say?
Well, like I said, redemption of the villains, but also redemption
arc of this guy. So it is a redemption arc for Doc Ock. Like, he does betray his other villainous people. Like, when he realizes that some of them are just really bad people, they don't care to kill anyone, and he had the chip that was all messed up in his spine fixed and replaced. Yep. And instead of dying by destroying his machine, he gets to live on. But also, it is a kind of redemption arc, not a very strong one. I think they could have played it up a little bit more for Andrew Garfield. Like, you can tell this guy is still messed up after his girlfriend died from him. Like, who wouldn't be? Like, I remember some people made fun of him. Yeah. Like, was not Cinema Sins. It was How It Should Have Ended. Made fun of him a lot. His character a lot. I think like a lot of people got turned off by characters. Like, you just watched your girlfriend plummet. You shot a web, and either A, you would have seen her splat, or when the web caught her, it snapped her neck.
So awful. Like
you're not walking away from that without some serious mental wounds. So I understood why he didn't look okay. You could tell like he was not okay. Pretty good actor, like actually working through it. Yeah. And in the movie, he saves Michelle Jones right here from actually dying. And that was the interesting part. When we first got introduced to this character as MJ, a lot of people thought they did the whole swap thing, like this is the new Mary Jane, that Mary Jane's dead. But no, it's more like a multiverse idea. And I think that's kind of like how they portrayed it. The Mary Jane that we know is with Tobey Maguire, because Tobey Maguire just talked about like, hey, it's like,
he finally got together with Mary Jane.
Well, he did in the third movie.
Yeah,
they got married, and I think he goes webbing off, and she's sitting there in this crappy one-bed apartment, being like, oh, crap.
But remember,
maybe I should have made this work out with the rich guy.
But he died.
Whatever.
But
that's what girls like.
That's why Tobey Maguire.
That's the first thing the girls ask for these days. The modern dating women, like, hey, what's your salary? Can I see your resume? Yeah. I need your credit report. So it was sweet to see them all together. I just used the word sweet. Good Lord. But it was good seeing him together. All three of the Spiders. When the three Spider-Men are fighting together against the enemies, the villains, that was pretty awesome. They had a long talk scene though.
That was really awkward.
I don't think they executed that correctly, and that's what we're kind of saying. I think. Well, did we see it at the beginning? Anyways, we thought it was okay. Boom, 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 long and kind of drawn out scenes. That was one of them. It was a good start. I think if they had spent maybe an hour or two longer at that part of the script, just to like give everything they're saying more meaning, make it a little more humorous before a little more levity before we get to the final act. Okay. But it was just, I don't remember anything from it. It just felt long. It felt drawn out. It felt awkward. And they did that a lot. Like a whole lot. Now, they've always used Michelle Jones. Oops, wrong one. Boom. Where'd she go? Okay, I'll use her. She's always a really awkward character. Like
she was always a really awkward character, yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm glad she's wearing pants in this because, let's be frank,
did she ever wear a skirt?
No. She's she's not feminine at all.
No.
Which I think that's what they were going for. But I mean, she's like a high school kid, so I personally don't give a crap. But I just noticed she just was always kind of boyish, tomboyish, and if we were really talking about it, she was definitely wearing the pants in the relationship with her between Tom Holland and
definitely.
Yeah, he was Spider-Man, he had all this cool stuff, but this kid had no clue, and she was just like way too snarky one-liner. And honestly, that's the kind of issue with the actress. Every time I see her, I just see and hear snarky one-liners. There's a name right there, Zendaya. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know her real name, but Zendaya. But I never really liked her as MJ, Mary Jane. Let's just call it for what it is. You can call her Michelle Jones. I think this is the first time in the movie they called her Michelle Jones. Yeah,
I just remember them always calling her MJ, but maybe they had to do that to differentiate that this Peter Parker,
Yes.
Tom Holland, his MJ is a different MJ than this MJ that Tobey Maguire has.
This scene she was pretty hot. She's pretty hot, especially with the unexpected wet T-shirt contest. Let's just say things were pointing all over the place. Oh boy. So it was goofy. I remember this movie. It was good, and I think it actually aged pretty well.
It aged really well. Yeah. When we watched it last night, we were all very impressed with how well it aged.
It's still a little hokey, but I think it aged fairly well. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So out of these three, I mean, let's look how she's dressed. Who dresses like that?
High school kids.
I've never seen a high school kid dressed like that.
I mean, I would assume high school kids dress like that. I don't know.
This would be the person like hiding in the library in a corner, and like you only know that they exist when you walk in and you see them. Like, oh, and I guess has a Leatherman and a bunch of pins now. He's like super athletic, or
I don't know. Why does he have the Letterman's jacket? Also, all three of them like applying for MIT together. It's like, what kind of friend group does that?
Did like MIT like slide some money into Disney's wallet?
They're all
or
like
something?
way too excited to be like, oh, we got all.
People are forgetting about us. All these online classes. Let's talk about that MIT.
Right.
It was weird. So yeah, they were. They're like all doing it now. So I've heard of some friends doing that, like really like tight friends. But it's like maybe I mean maybe I could see it just because Spider-Man. She knows he's Spider-Man. He's like the Oracle of Spider-Man. But it's interesting is like if this guy will actually come out, Ned. If Ned will actually come out and become
Hobgoblin.
The Hobgoblin. I don't know.
So wait, go back to that picture. So
which one? This one?
No, the one with the three of them. So side note.
Last chance with Mary. No, wait, no. Sorry. Last chance with Mary Jane. One more time to kill the thing.
All right.
Done.
So
sorry.
Peter Parker.
I feel summer creeping in, and I'm tired of town again. Okay, when I was a kid, I first heard that. I didn't know why they were singing about Mary Jane.
Oh, you thought it was Spider-Man Mary Jane?
Duh, I'm a kid. I'm not like sitting there like, hey, man, stop the Vietnam War, man.
That wasn't a Vietnam War song.
I know it wasn't, but I'm assuming it's cool. I don't know.
It was from like the 90s.
I'm stereotyping. Was it really 90s?
Yeah, it was from the 90s.
Oh, wow.
That was Dave Matthews Band.
There's now video proof. I don't know who Dave Matthews is. Last chance
You've
of
heard other
Mary
songs
Jane.
by that.
One more time to kill the thing. I mean, she was hot. Okay, anyways. Wow. The evidence is out there. Okay, let's go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying Peter Parker looks like he just took his shirt out of his hamper.
He did look like he took it out of him. So that's actually factually correct for most high school kids. What sports is he doing? Did he just like get like a Leatherman's jacket from his parents?
He's the manager. He's the manager of the sports team.
He might be. Yeah. He just might be. Oh, man. Okay, so, let's wrap this up.
Sorry, we're making fun of a bunch of high school kids.
When Aunt May died, again, it was one of those, it just didn't fit. Come on. The first Spider-Man owns it. Get over it. It's the truth, okay? With great power comes great responsibility, Uncle Ben. Unless she's slowly bleeding out from like some kind of like, I don't know, spinal injury or spleen injury or something. Well, she got hit by the Hobgoblin's glider.
Oh,
which,
so
if I remember correctly, in the
maybe?
first movie was like definitely had a lot of spikes on it.
Had a lot of spiky points.
So they killed her off in this one, and then they had her like literally give him like a long monologue speech about like good motivation, like great power, great responsibility. Then
just
she
like Uncle Ben
died. Yeah, but Uncle Bill told him that beforehand because he was like, hey, why are you beating up people at school? Like, I get it. Like, maybe you shouldn't have backed down from the bully, but you shouldn't beat the crap out of it. Which he kind of did. He kind of just tapped him in the chest a little bit.
He just didn't know his own strength.
Honestly, I think that kid's, like, entire, like, sternum would have been shattered and, like, massive internal trauma. Maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah, probably.
They didn't really touch on that.
No. So she dies. It's awkward. I get it. That's the driving motivation that almost drives Peter Parker to the absolute, like, just a murderous rage. And that's really where the other Spider-Mans come into it, and they kind of, like, talk him out.
Peter, these are
This guy. This guy right here.
Not that version of him.
Not this version of him, but Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield kind of like go there and they stop him from murdering. And I think what was appropriate is they had Tobey Maguire jump in and stop him from murdering the Green Goblin. Because even though he says he killed the guy that killed his uncle, he really didn't. The guy, got pushed a little bit. He tripped over the pipe and he fell through. Mm. So, I don't know. Maybe we could say he could have shot on a web, try to save lives. He didn't, but obviously he had some issues. You could tell he had issues with it as well.
He had a lot of issues too. Both of them had issues.
All of them had PTSD.
Yeah, all of them.
I think of all of them, our dude, Bully Maguire, definitely seemed the most put together. And Andrew Garfield was like a step behind.
Yeah, I mean, and he was the oldest, so he'd had more time to work through it and come to terms with it. So. All
right. What would you give this?
A B.
I'm going to give it a B.
Yeah, a B.
It's not A+ worthy. Honestly, I think they could have used these guys in a lot sooner.
It would
really
have
cranked up the nostalgia because it did feel pretty rushed towards the end. And I get it. They wanted to do the redemption arc for the villains, for some of them at least, or at least we kind of suck. It's time for us to step down, but I think they could have made more use of these original characters, and I think that's because for me, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield is what made this movie watchable and made it good.
Yeah,
Tom Holland was just kind of eh.
I was getting really bored. I actually fell asleep. Dave kept nudging me, trying to wake me up.
I was more interested in seeing how he's going to deal with the fact that everybody knew he was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's kind of a non-issue. Because everybody knew who Captain America was. Everybody knew who Tony Stark, Iron Man was.
Right.
Okay.
Everybody knew who
Thor was, but then that's a Norse god.
Yeah, they knew that too. Which is kind of weird.
Norse god. So everybody knew who Captain America, Black Widow, or supposedly didn't know, but I mean, she doesn't wear a mask, so it's
I mean, so you knew who she was.
And she stands out. She was a babe, so it's okay. You're not going to hide anywhere.
Captain America. Yeah.
So it was kind of his identity becoming exposed to the world. To me, it was really a non-issue, even if he was a high school kid. So he just made it worse. And honestly, I think Doctor Strange has a secret, masochistic mindset where he's like, I wonder how much I can screw this up right now. So I'm going to agree with Jenny. It's totally a B. It could have been a lot better if they just spent more time with the original Spider-Mans, made it a little bit longer. We watched it early in the morning, midnight, 11:20 midnight showing. Whatever. Yeah, it was 11:20 showing.
Yeah, it was a very late showing.
So we were kind of tired. We were but it wasn't the best thing. Without those other Spider-Mans.
No, I would have walked away and been that was not a very good movie. But it got much better for me when they brought the other Spider-Mans in. So instead I walked away saying, okay, I thought that movie was pretty boring until they brought the other Spider-Mans in.
Let us know what you guys think. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Get out.